the global uncertainty which is affecting, and especially when we see China is becoming more dominant in the at the global level in the supply chain, what is the alternative available to us? The budget will try to focus more on providing more money in the hand of public so
Okay.
that domestic consumption
Boosted up.
can be promoted. And
Yes.
once we promote the domestic consumption, we can face the external challenge also. So that could be the overarching theme of this budget.
Hello, you're watching India Today Global with me, Shita Mitra. Tomorrow is a big day for Indian economy. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will unveil her 8th budget. Now, there's a lot of anticipation among the corporates, businessmen, and of course, ordinary taxpayers like you and me. Prime Minister Modi has given us few signals as to what lays out for this fiscal roadmap tomorrow. But with this anticipation comes a lot of questions as well. So joining me now to decode what's the pre-budget mood like in India is Shishir Sinha. He's a business journalist, somebody who's been closely tracking Indian economy. So thank you, Mr. Sinha, for joining us here on India Today Global.
Thank you.
All right, sir. So we have a lot to decode here, but beginning with the economic survey is out. Indian economy is projected to grow from about 6.3 to 6.8%. So please paint us a picture for our viewers. What's the state of Indian economy right now, and how is it different from the last time when budget was introduced last year?
There are two strong messages from economic survey. The first is, of course, that growth is slightly on a slower path.
Okay.
Because if you can remember, last year the economic survey projected 6.5 to 7% growth rate.
Yes.
And finally, the MOSPI, which publishes this economic projection for the whole year, and where it projected 6.4% for the fiscal year 25, which is the current fiscal year, that was clearly visible that our growth is not going to be what we were expecting at the time of presentation of last year budget. Now, this year, when we are talking about 6.3 to 6.8% for next fiscal, this is slightly lower than what we are seeing in the current fiscal. And that is something is very challenging at this moment, especially when we are talking about achieving a $5 trillion economy or $7 trillion economy or $10 trillion economy, and finally the developed nation status by 2047. So this is one critical aspect of economic survey projection.
Okay.
The second thing which the survey is talking about, that more focus on what we call as deregulating various sectors. They have given example in related with various sector, how we can decongest, how we can deregularize the things. How we can decentralize the thing, how we can give more and more ease of doing business, and how we can focus more on enhancing the domestic production. So these are some messages from the economic survey, which is the second set of messages. And finally, the global uncertainty which is affecting, and especially when we see China is becoming more dominant in the at the global level in the supply chain, what is the alternative available to us? So this is the third message which economic survey has given. So these are the three messages. One, the growth is slightly on the slower path. Second, we need to decongest. We need to give more and more power to local administration as well as to various bodies. And the third one, that we need to consider what kind of geopolitical situation is and how we can overcome the challenges posed by geopolitical situations.
All right, so three big takeaways from economic survey. I have two follow-up questions to that. You mentioned that the economic growth rate of India has slowed down. So what are the challenges the Indian economy is facing right now? If you could just, briefly explain to us that.
The first and the foremost thing is the manufacturing. Manufacturing is always considered as the job multiplier.
Yeah.
And also it is also considered as providing impetus to the services sector. I will give you one example.
Okay.
When there's a one job in the manufacturing sector, there's almost 2.5 to 3 jobs in the services sector.
Okay.
So if this kind of job multiplier we see in the manufacturing sector, and if the manufacturing sector is not doing well,
Yeah.
there we need to give much focus on that. The second thing about the services sector, some of the part of the services sector, or what we call as the some of the subsectors of the services sectors, are doing slightly better,
All
like
right.
the financial services and also the construction. But when we talk about the other services sector, they are not doing well, and that is why we are seeing lower growth in the services sector also. So when the out of three component, two are not doing well.
Yeah.
One is not doing well, and the other one is not doing well according to the expectation. Then there will be problem on the overall economy. Now the more focus will be on the agriculture, and if you have listened to what chief economic advisor was saying a little bit ago,
Yeah.
he was talking about that agriculture has the potential to become sector of the future, and it has the
Okay.
potential to become to provide 1% in the GDP. So that is a big statement coming out from the government. And I think the bigger challenge is from the manufacturing and the services, but some kind of relief we can expect from the agriculture sector.
All right. So you also mentioned about the geopolitical tension. So I want to ask you. You mentioned that how Indian economy has been doing domestically, but when we consider, the global challenges, you have Russia-Ukraine war, you have tensions in West Asia, and you also have Donald Trump coming in the White House, and his tariff threats. So how is Indian economy doing compared to the global economy? So how are we faring on that level?
So if you see the number 6.4% number, or 6.3 to 6.8% number, or 6.5% number, that number seems to be very impressive one. But the real challenge is that the European economy is almost slipping into what we call as a recession.
Okay.
And there is a big challenge, because if the European economy is slipping into recession, and US is focusing more on domestic production,
Yeah.
more on the how to boost up the domestic
Yeah.
production, then there will be some issues for our manufacturing sector where to export, because
Okay.
we also have to think about how to enhance our share in the global supply chain.
Yeah.
So the number wise it seems okay, but if you go into the details of that number, that is very, very important. See, so now at this moment the key thing is that what kind of policy we are going to have towards China. I mean,
Okay.
I'm talking about India per se, and
Yeah.
also what kind of policy US is going to have
Towards
for
China.
China. And that will impact the overall global supply chain as well as the global economic order.
All right. So now that we have laid out the context with regards to domestic economy and of course how global economy has been impacting India, let's come to foreign policy and defense budget. What do you think will be the key expectations from this fiscal roadmap 2025?
See, government has already made it very clear that we are going to have 4.5% fiscal deficit,
Yes.
and all the income and the expenditure thing will be woven around that number only. So when we talk about 4.5% GDP, and the current fiscal, the budget estimate was 4.9%, and we are expecting that it will be 4.7% because of the lower capital expenditure. So
Okay.
in terms of the fiscal roadmap, the fiscal deficit target 4.5%, that is very clear. Now, the second aspect which everybody will be looking for, that what kind of money which is going to be provided for the capital expenditure.
Yeah.
So last year, I mean, sorry, current fiscal year, when we have 11.11 lakh crore for the capital expenditure, that has not been spent completely. So the next
Okay.
fiscal, for the fiscal year 26, what kind of capital expenditure will it be? To 3.2% of GDP or 3.4% of GDP, which translate into 11.5 lakh crore to 12 lakh crore rupees. So if we are putting more money under the capital expenditure, we also have to ensure that the money is spent. So if you talk about the fiscal roadmap, fiscal deficit 4.5%. If you
Okay.
talk about the capital expenditure, it will be something around 11.5 to 12 lakh crore, or 3.2 to 3.4% of GDP. In terms of the most important thing is that what the government is going to do towards the income tax, because that
Yeah.
income
That,
tax
that's
factor is
one
also
question
from the
that's on
consumption point
everyone's
of view.
mind.
Yeah. So this time we are expecting a new income tax law, because the income
Okay.
tax law, which was enacted in 1961, and it's almost more than 6 decade.
Yeah.
And in fact, the kind of amendments we have seen in the Income Tax Act, we need a new law. In fact, an exercise was taken way back in 2010,
Okay.
when the then government decided to bring direct tax code. Unfortunately, it didn't materialize. But this time, the finance minister, while presenting the budget in July, she gave a target of 6 months to prepare a new direct tax code. So
Yeah.
under the new direct tax system, or new direct tax code, or new direct tax law, whatsoever name you want to give, we are expecting that some kind of exemptions could be given under the new income tax regime, because that
Okay.
is very, very critical, considering the consumption aspect of the economy. And the two exemptions which are being talked at this moment is, one is the HRA, and the
Okay.
second one is the NPS. So these are the two exemptions can be given under NPS. Under the old income tax exemption, old income tax scheme, please do not expect any change in that, because the government has
Okay.
very clear thing in mind that it needs to be phased out. So under the new tax regime, the one part is the exemption part, and the second part is some tinkering could be done in the slab system, so that some money could be given in the hand of the public, or the common taxpayer, or more precisely, we say middle class. And today, if you can remember what Prime Minister said in the
Yeah.
morning, just before the beginning of the budget session,
Yeah.
that may
Bless
Goddess
the poor
Lakshmi
middle class.
shows blessings on poor and the middle class. That
Yes.
is clear indication that something is coming out for the middle class.
Exactly, some breather, some kind of rebate, or of course tax relief, as you said, could be in for the middle class. But how the fiscal, how the fiscal roadmap will actually cater to this middle class angst that we've been seeing growing in India, we'll get to know tomorrow. AI has become a buzzword, especially we have seen that, rapid developments, whether it's China, US, it has triggered a global race for dominance in the sector of artificial intelligence. So do you think we could see some aspects in this budget for artificial intelligence as well?
If you can remember that just on Thursday, the Information and Broadcasting Minister, who is also IT Minister,
Yeah.
Ashwini Vaishnav,
Yes.
he announced that within 6 to 8 months we will have the domestically produced this AI thing.
Yes.
So I believe that the focus will be more on providing incentive to develop AI product in India, and there could be some announcement on that. At the same time, since Economic Survey has also talked about how AI can impact the job creation, and how AI can how AI can impact the skilling and upskilling thing
Yeah.
in the job market. So I believe government will also try to address this issue, that how to encourage company to adopt AI, not to remove the workforce, but how to enhance the productivity of that workforce. So some kind of incentive can be given. So there are two aspects. One is how to encourage companies to develop AI product,
Yeah.
and the second one is how to encourage the industry or the manufacturing units as well as the services unit to adopt AI to
To
enhance
enhance
the productivity
production.
of their workforce.
So now I'm going to come to stock market. So basically tomorrow the market will remain open as the budget will come. So I want to ask you, how do you assess the situation of stock market right now ahead of the budget?
See, at this moment, the stock market is not getting affected by the domestic factor, but by the global factor.
Yeah.
So one thing is very clear. And also, you need to remember that on 7th of this month, when the Monetary Policy Committee will announce the uh, credit monetary policy review,
Yes.
that will have much bigger impact on the stock market, because the stock market is expecting some kind of interest rate cut,
Okay.
because the Federal Reserve has already lowered the interest rate, and there is an expectation that in this year, not immediately, but after some time, they may cut the interest rate further. And
Okay.
please remember that when the interest rate is cut, it is going to benefit the stock market. So stock market will wait not just for the first, but also for the seventh. In terms of the first, I mean the Union Budget Day, they will have an eye on what kind of measures are going to be taken for the capital gain tax, because
Okay.
that is something which everybody is talking about, that capital gain tax need to be reworked, especially for
Yes.
the debt mutual fund, and also for the equity. When the STT is levied, what is the purpose of this capital gain tax? And last budget I mean, I'm talking about the July budget,
Yes.
when the long-term capital gain tax was raised to 12.5%, and also the exemption was raised from 1 lakh rupees to 1.25 25 lakh rupees. So some changes we are expecting there, but not much in that, because we have just seen some changes almost
Okay.
7 to 8 months back, and this is not something which market will appreciate. But of course, they will look for some kind of direction on this particular front.
If you could give us a list of what stocks you think are likely to benefit from the budget this time.
I can talk about some of the sectors, and one sector which will two sectors, I would say. One is of course the infrastructure, because the spending on road and rail are going to be hiked, and that is going to benefit the infrastructure stock. And the second one is the informative IT, that is the AI, any kind of benefit, any kind of I mean uh, uh, promotion to the technology will boost the innovative IT sector. This is number two. And also I will add one more thing, that is the green sector, which is the
All right.
new and the renewable energy, and especially those who are involved in the solar. I believe that there could be some kind of movement in the green shares. So these are the three sectors: infrastructure, green, I mean the new and the renewable one, and the evolving IT sector. So these are the informative IT sector. So these are
Yeah.
the three sectors which I believe have some positive impact from the budget.
All right, sir. So, those viewers, those are the three sectors that we have to look out for when the budget comes in. So, my last question to you is, if you could just summarize, what can we expect tomorrow?
I believe the considering the geopolitical uncertainty and considering the consumption is getting slower in India,
Yes.
the budget will try to focus more on providing more money in the hand of public, so
Okay.
that domestic consumption
Boosted up.
can be promoted. And
Yes.
once we promote the domestic consumption, we can face the external challenge also. So that could be the overarching theme of this budget.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for explaining to us what the budget could look like, what are the big takeaways and expectations. Thank you so much.